everybody. So I'm going live today with Chazmith. I'm going to raise this up because that angle was really weird. So Chazmith from Our Power is Within podcast is going to join me. She is watching. I'm going to her. 1 second. Chazmith. There she is. Hello.
Hi.
How are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to join us at the MS stage and talking to us today. We can't see you very well because the image is cut off. If you can because it's like both of us, if you're able to, I can see you to sort of there. There you go. That's better. Now I can see your face. Hello, hello, hello. So everybody, I want to just introduce Chazmith and Chaz. You like to be known as Chaz, right? That's your nickname?
Yeah.
Or Chazmith is better?
Sure.
Okay. So this is Chazmith Newton from Our Power is Within podcast. And I asked her to tell me a few things about herself so that I can share them with you. She started the podcast to inspire people to take their power back and recognize that they are their own healer within, which I can't wait to talk about. And she has a few random facts. She's obsessed with bulldogs, which we both share because I grew up with 2 bulldogs and I loved them so much. Their names were Homer and Boris. You have a little girl named Coconut. I hope we get to see her over this podcast. You said you will sometimes hear her snoring in the background of an episode on your podcast. You're a huge nature enthusiast. You love all things plants, gardening, indoor plants, flowers, and having your hands in the soil, which I would also love to talk about because that's a tool that we use here at the MS stage with earthing. And you love East Coast swing dancing, which is cool. And you live in Florida and you enjoy the beach and extra sunshine. So you and I are not that far apart. I'm in South Carolina.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I'm in Charleston. I'm on Folly Beach outside of Charleston.
Oh, yeah. You're literally only a few hours.
Where in Florida are you?
Daytona.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's not far. So I've never actually been to Daytona, but yeah, we're super close. I didn't realize, I knew you were in Florida, but I didn't realize, I don't think we ever talked about maybe we didn't talk about where I was, but, so let's jump right in. So let's talk about, first of all, is Coconut there with you?
She is being a turd and she's in the other room.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll get to meet her by the end of our time together. So I love bulldogs too. I grew up with one named Homer, and I got to name the second one. His name was Boris because I was obsessed with watching tennis. I still am, and I used to love Boris Becker growing up. So we named our second bulldog, Boris, and they loved each other so much. And when the first one passed away, the second one, they weren't brothers, but they were like brothers. And he went into a massive depression. It was so sad. I know, because they loved each other so much, but they lived a long time. So anyway, on to more important things, although dogs are the most important, really. So tell me about your podcast. Let's talk about it. I was a guest, you guys, on Chazmith's podcast, and so if you have missed it, it is in my link in bio, and I'll link to it after this as well. But we had an awesome episode which seemed to resonate with a lot of people. So let's talk about your podcast and why you started it and what you do and all of those fun things.
Loaded. Yeah, so it started as this idea. I can recall the exact moment where I was sitting, who I was with when the idea came to me. And it's funny because they always say, oh, do something, make a career doing something you love. And I was always like, well, but I love learning. How do you get paid to learn, you know?
Yeah.
And And so then I always had a few people who were my favorite podcasters, and I always listened to their podcasts, and I always was like, wait, this is it. They literally just get to like learn and ask questions all day. I love asking questions. Mm-hmm. And so this was years and years before, and I thought, it's so cool to be able to be a podcaster. And this was before I understood how or if you could even make money doing it, or like everything it entailed. And for a long time, I just kind of wrote it off anyways, because I was like, oh, I have a terrible voice. Like, I grew up with that belief. I have a terrible voice. Mm-hmm. So I could never be a podcaster. And then I ended up, you know, finding myself in a state of chronic illness. And I did about a year of brain retraining. And prior to brain retraining, I actually did have some chronic pain episodes that I was able to overcome through learning about TMS, the work of Dr. John Sarno. Mm-hmm. And so as I was doing like brain retraining, I started feeling like there was this gap in these two worlds. Like, it was all mind body, it was all self-healing. But over here, if you had pain, you ended up finding like John Sarno and TMS work. And then over here, if you had all this other chronic stuff, you ended up finding like brain retraining programs. And I felt like they were really one and the same. And they really felt to me like there was this bridge that needed to be like connected. And there was this commonality with like a different language. So I just had this like epiphany, this moment where I was like, I want to bring it together. I want to bridge the gap. Because I don't know that it's just one or the other, because like a lot of people who first find out about like TMS, they really dive into the emotional side of healing, which is fantastic, but then they're not doing necessarily like the neuroplasticity and rewiring, where over time we know that if we have a, say like a chronic pain that develops for whatever reason, there's going to be a level of like learned behavior, right? Like learned pain. And so I thought, wow, like people could really benefit.
Oops, are you there? Did I lose you? Can you hear me? Okay, there you are. I thought you froze for a second. I was like, what happened?
I did.
I was deep into the listening. Well, you talked about TMS. When you say TMS, what are you referring to? So
there's a doctor, he was way ahead of his time, Dr. John Sarno. And he was like a regular doctor, but over time he started discovering and linking and connecting the dots that like all these people that came to him that had all this chronic pain, there was nothing structurally wrong with them. And so he started really tapping into this idea that it was really like something that the brain was creating as a means of, in a sense, a distraction mechanism from like something deeper, like some deep emotional healing, like a deep, you know, he usually associated with like a deep inner rage, because we have this divided mind, you know, like I'm the good girl, I'm the perfectionist, I'm the this, all the things we learn. But then there's this inner child that like wants to be selfish and is enraged at all this goodism and perfectionism that that the adult is making it adhere to, in a sense. Yeah. And so a lot of his work was really progressive for his time. And then there's a lot of doctors since then in the mind-body community that have really expanded upon it as they've come to understand the brain and neuroplasticity more. Right. And so I had this understanding, and I understood there was an element to the emotional work, but then in brain retraining, you almost learn to distract from the emotions and really just elevate your mood and do things like visualizations and stuff to create like positive changes in your, you know, chemistry, which is awesome. But then I thought, but some of these people, why are some people healing really fast and some people aren't? And maybe there is an emotional component for them that also does need addressed. So I just wanted to bridge that gap and bring it together and create this message that healing was possible. So that is really the foundation of where it came from. And
So what does TMS stand for?
So originally TMS was tension myositis syndrome. That was what Dr. John Sarno came up with. Okay. And since then it's also been known as tension myoneural syndrome. Okay. Or too much stress.
Oh yeah, interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, and we talked about that too, because like am a huge believer that, I mean, the emotions are totally connected to the body. They're connected to, I believe, diagnoses. Trauma can be connected to autoimmune or any illness, really, for that matter. So and we talked about what I do in my practice, which is I call the switch exercise, which is to connect with our emotions just through movement and to switch from a negative to a positive. And it's really quick and really simple. So it's a very, I mean, dumbed down version, I would say, of what you're talking about, but a quick way to tap into your body, right? And the body's constantly sending messages. And what you're saying with neuroplasticity is so interesting, because the neuroplasticity for MS specifically, I mean, they've been talking about it more and more and more in terms of training our, like when we are physically doing exercise, right? They're talking a lot about physically retraining the body, like the muscles to do certain exercises. And then the more you do the little things, like the certain types of walking exercises, then you're ultimately changing your neuroplasticity. And I do that also because I meditate a lot, and I do it with visualization. So in my mind, I'm like visualizing me walking perfectly on the beach, or me, walking up a hill and no problem, and doing so it's like so to me, it is retraining the brain, but just in a different way.
Yeah.
And also speaking positively constantly to my body, to my symptoms, and affirmations, which I'm a huge believer in. But I agree with you. There's a huge emotional component here to all of this. So what then, sort of, once you launched your podcast, like, what have you noticed? How long has your podcast been going on?
3-year anniversary will be the first week of September.
Congrats. So you're close to that. That's amazing, because a lot of people I've heard drop out after like less than a year, or like their first season, and they're like, I'm sick of this, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, that's because they don't realize how much work it is.
Yeah, totally.
It's like a full-time job.
It is. It is a full-time job. I mean, because I have thought about doing one. I've guested on a lot of them, and I was a guest on yours, and I've been on a bunch of, but it's like to recreate new material and constantly be talking to more people and do mini-sodes and of your own. And it's a lot. Like, I'm like, I want to do one, but then I'm like, but that's a lot of work, a lot of extra work on top of my work already.
Yeah.
So, so that's amazing. Congrats to you for getting, continuing your path. So what have you noticed with your own healing journey, and now that you're doing this work and talking to more and more people, what have you come to any big conclusions, or have you noticed any similarities between what people are experiencing or what people are noticing these days?
I just think it's so individual. I think healing is so individual.
Yeah.
And I do share a lot of different stories, and I share and support a lot of different tools and modalities, but I do that with the hopes that people will really lean into their own personal truth, and feel what they feel connected to and what's resonant for them. I never want to like do something like, say somebody has this massive healing experience in like, say 8 to 12 months. I never want somebody to feel like they're doing something wrong because they're not there yet.
Yeah.
Because it is really individual, because we are all so individual. And from the moment, people always call it kind of like a perfect storm, or that moment when you first started that downward spiral of symptoms. Everyone's story is so unique. Yeah. The path we walked, the emotions we felt, the upbringing we had, like how we handled life, our nervous systems. And so I can't compare myself to anyone else, right? Because that's the thing is, for some people, there might be a huge emotional component. Somebody else, they might have literally just had an actual, like, real acute injury that then the brain got stuck in a feedback loop and didn't unwind. And now they have chronic pain that is literally the brain just being stuck in a loop, right? And so naturally, they might have a better outcome of healing than somebody who might have had a lot more trauma throughout their life. It's like we're all so unique. So I just don't think there is one size fits all. I don't think it's one solution. I think it's really about, I think this journey is just really always an opportunity for us in some way to come back into our truth and alignment, and like to really start advocating for ourselves and tapping into our own inner wisdom to see what feels right for us, and a willingness to explore, but without jumping around or moving too fast. You know, like be willing to try something for a fair amount or reasonable amount of time and then lean into something else. And it's also, it's all like healing is a giant like onion filled with a million layers that we're just peeling back. So I think a lot of people think, I hear this all the time. This is a big thing for me. Like people will do this program, or they'll try brain retraining, or they'll try like expressive writing, you know, or they'll try this, and they're not getting the results they're quite looking for. And then they do whatever the last thing is they do, they attribute all their healing to that thing. And and then it's almost like they get in this mindset that like all this other stuff didn't work, but it's all the journey. It was all working. It was all building. And I just believe in that divine perfection, and I just think it all matters. It all makes a difference, and it was all leading us to that next place. Because maybe if you started with the last thing you did, maybe you wouldn't have been ready. It wouldn't have worked.
I agree with that completely, because I was on a journey of like, well, this is twofold. So part of my answer to that is I was always chasing my cure, right? Like I'd be like, oh, I found this practitioner and he's going to help me and that's going to work, right? And then I would go to the next person and I'd be like, oh, I'm going to go here and I'm going to travel to this place. And oh my gosh, he's going to heal me and it's going to be amazing. So there was that aspect of the chasing the cure part, but emotionally, so I was doing all the work, right? Like I was doing all the right things and eating the things and I still do those things. I still eat well and do all the right things in terms of that. But emotionally, and this is what I talk about, and I may have mentioned this in the podcast episode too, I was resisting it really because I really just wanted the cure, right? Like ultimately I wasn't fully accepting the diagnosis. And when I say that, and I talk about this in your episode, that I'm not owning the label. Like I don't own the label, but at least the acceptance to me is the key to like getting to the next level of the healing, because you have to understand that it's there, it's real, it exists. Something's happening in your body, and your body's just sending you messages, right? It's just like your messenger giving you signals of like, something's not right. You got to pay attention to me, please help, you know? Somebody just wrote, oh, that's totally me. Yeah. So it's the chasing is actually, that was me for a long time. It was the chasing of this next person and this next healer, doctor, whatever. And you have to get to the point of stop. Like I had to stop everything and get back to myself. And that's what I teach in the MS stage too. In my program, it's like, you have to slow down and get back to yourself, get to know yourself better, meditate, get on that deeper level before you can fully heal, right? Before you can fully accept that it's real, that something's up, so that you can start having a conversation with your body. And that's, I don't know, that's what came to me when you were talking.
And the deeper I get to in this, the more I realize that for a lot of us, it really is, as you talk about body, it really is about embodiment and really getting into this deeper inner relationship with the body.
And talking to the body and talking to your cells and having a communication with them, because and I always say this, so it's like I'm on repeat, but it's like they want to work for you, right? Like, our cells want to be healthy. They want to be healthy. They're happy when they're healthy. When they're perfectly healthy, they're happy. So it's like visualizing them being perfectly happy. I mean, perfectly healthy. I like to visualize them with smiley faces, like billions of them, like in my body with smiley faces all over the place, swimming around my body, you know, because they're happy when we're happy. And so it's like they want to work for us ultimately. It's just a matter of sometimes things throw them off, right? It's like sometimes things throw them off balance. It's like a pinball machine, right? Or like something like that where it's like they can't quite get there. And so sometimes things just throw them off. So what practices, like I wanted to talk about the brain retraining, right? Like that, can you talk about that a little bit? Like how do you what is that practice exactly? I mean, just because I know that there's all kinds of different ways. Like I do it in the sense of talking to my body more positively, affirmations, writing things down, visualizing, but I'm curious to hear about what this is.
I think it's really, I think that there's so many unique, there's different elements to each brain retraining program out there. But I think at the end of the day, what I noticed the commonalities is that most of them include some form of like being more aware of our thoughts and what our body is doing and our brain is doing throughout the day. So it's very much like a top-down practice. Mm-hmm. And it's a pattern interrupt. So it's like stopping when you're in like a ruminate. You notice you're ruminating. You notice that you're getting caught up in a fear frenzy. You notice that maybe even a symptom like is happening, like, you know, a symptom just started. Yeah. So it's like pattern interrupting and then talking to like, and bringing in your higher self and then going into some type of like state change. And that's where it can be really different and individual with each program. My experience was mostly all with DNRS. DNRS, we used predominantly for state changes, visualizations of both past and present, or past and future. So we would not only pull in a past experience that was actually, that elicited a positive state, we would then also move into some imagined future state we wanted to get to, right? Mm-hmm. And then within that context, we also learned to focus on the positive. So we really committed to ourselves to refrain from venting or symptom talk, giving any energy to what we didn't want, right? Yeah. And then there was like exposure therapy and training where if you had things that were triggers, you know, like a certain food or a sense, some kind of smell or light, you would incrementally expose yourself to it and then change your state to create this new connection, like a positive connection with what the brain once perceived as a threat. Yeah. So that's my experience with brain retraining, was particularly DNRS. And I, to this day, think there's pros and cons. I feel that brain retraining was an absolutely humongous, integral, beautiful, helpful part of my healing journey and essential. I do feel like I would have been better equipped or prepared if I had known in advance how to navigate kind of re-entering into like a normal life, you know, because what I think that's a common thing is a lot of people think that brain retraining is going to be the end all be all. And for some people it is, but for a lot of people it's not. Yeah. And what happens is we start to feel really, really, really good when we're living in our like little DNRS bubble, but then we go back out into life and we are challenged with old behaviors coming back, or old, you know, we have like things and stuff that challenge us in life that send us into old neurology. Yeah. And I think I was underprepared in how to deal with like re-emerging into like my normal life outside of my little brain retraining bubble. Yeah. I would like to have been better equipped. But aside from that, I still stand firm. Like a lot of people there's a lot of more comprehensive programs now that include top down, bottom up, everything. Yeah. I still believe that brain retraining, especially a program like DNRS, can be incredibly powerful for certain people because of its simplicity, and it's like it does just give you like a set agenda and you follow it. And if you're dealing with like a lot of brain fog or just any type of symptom that really makes it hard for you to like focus or like really comprehend, I think simple's great. Like some of the other programs can be so comprehensive but maybe overwhelming, you know? I do hear a lot of negative feedback occasionally in the community about programs like DNRS, and then a lot of people say, oh, it's too rigid. And I think it's like anything. A tool is a tool, but how we use it is how we ruin it, right? So you can take the tool and use it in a way that is resonant for you, or you can take the tool and run with it and be super rigid because maybe you were already a rigid perfectionist person. Yeah. And that's where you can run into some problems.
Totally. I mean, what came to me as you were talking, I actually right here have on my vision board, I have a picture of me at my wedding dancing. I was at my rehearsal dinner and I'm like totally, I actually posted it on my feed too, but I'm like totally in the moment, like just having the best time of my life. And I love, and so when you were talking about like the past memories, right? So like whenever I look at that photo, it brings me so much joy. So whenever I'm like having a rough day, I'm like, no, that's what my body needs to remember right now is that joy, that fun, that experience, right? That is what my cells want to know. That's what they want to experience, and that's what they want to be remembering. And then within that, you can create future experiences that are like that, right? So it may not be exactly the same, but you can create something that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Somebody wrote in the chat, I have pudendal neuralgia symptoms. I don't know what pudendal is. Please, how do I heal? It's been almost 2 years. I mean, we can't tell you how to heal. I would say, it's everybody's journey on their own. And my first piece of advice would be to get out of your head and into your body. And that's what I teach people to say. I get out of my head and into my body, take a deep breath, get into your body, and ask your body, what does it need? Oh, pelvic nerve pain. So I would ask your body what it needs. And I also run a practice with meditation to name the symptom so that you can learn more about it. It's a very deep meditation practice that we go into and name the symptom. You find out the symptom story, why it's there, what its name is, what it's wearing, what the character is. There's so much there that is really interesting and fascinating when I work with my students. So, I mean, on a physical level, I don't know what to tell you to do because I'm going to let you speak to that.
I would say start with leaning into and learning about the various program options out there. I don't think everyone needs a program to heal, but again, sometimes we might have like a lot of information and we don't know necessarily how to structure it or utilize it at first, right? So initially having a program that walks you step by step can really help us as we develop that true self again, that inner wisdom, access to that inner wisdom, and then we can start really individualizing things. But I think there's so many wonderful program options out there for people for self-healing to begin the process. And it's about reading into them and finding what really feels resonant for each individual. Yeah,
I totally agree. And that's why I feel like, to me, I may not be everyone's teacher, right? And it's what, like you said, what resonates most with. That's why I tell people to go inward and ask their symptom, ask their body, what do you need from me right now? What would serve you the most right now? Because it could be, you need to, I mean, your body could tell you, you can get so much information. It's crazy. Your body could say, I need more rest. I want you to stop eating. I literally had a friend do my practice, and literally her body said, I need you to stop eating dairy. And immediately within 3 weeks, her symptoms were gone. So like things like that she was like, I never would have figured that out unless she had asked her body. So I just feel like there are ways to find out, even just a simple, quick answer to take the first step. Like ask your body, what's the first step I can take to start to heal? And see what they say, because I do believe that you'll get an answer. I'm a huge believer in that. You just have to tap in, and I know that can be challenging for people too. So how do you tap in? Do you meditate? What is your practice?
I don't have a daily practice. I spent so much of my life being so incredibly rigid and structured that I've really been practicing not being so structured. Yeah. And I do think that sometimes I'm not going to speak up for anybody else other than myself. I have this tendency to be from one extreme to the other, and then I have to find myself somewhere in the middle. So I do know some structure is, in the words of Dr. Kathleen King, structure is sexy. So I do know that I'm working towards finding myself back into the middle of this so that I can have some structure. But really right now, my daily commitment is to just pause more in whatever capacity feels right. So that might mean meditation. That might mean going into like a somatic experiencing practice where I literally just follow the sensations of my body and like have a communication with them. That literally might mean orienting and just noticing my five senses around me. That might mean taking a moment and sitting in sunshine. It might mean going and sitting at the beach. It could mean so many things, but really my practice is about pausing and noticing.
Yes, I love that. It's so important because it's really about being in the moment, right? Which is also what I teach my students, to get back to. The only way to get back to yourself is by being in the moment, right? And by being present, by living in the moment. And so I really encourage that, and I love that. It doesn't have, and I don't have a rigid practice either. I mean, I do meditate every day, but if I miss it, I'm not hard on myself. You know, like I'm not going to beat myself up. I get back on track when I get, when I can. So yeah, I agree with that. And I love your, you talked about loving to put your hands in the earth, and I'm all about earthing, which I feel like is such an important practice. And one of my students right now started earthing every day since we started class, almost every day. She's not doing it every single day, but a lot of days. And we've been at it now for 7 weeks, 7 of the 12 weeks. And literally you can see a change in her body and her face, like her eyes are more alive, her posture has woken up, like her posture's straighter. She is just like soaking in the earth, right? And it's incredible the energy we can gather from the earth. I am not a planter. I am not you love flowers, and I don't grow vegetables and I don't grow any of my own things, which I should, but I don't have room where I am now, and I'm not good at that. I always kill plants when I get them. So I've just never had a green thumb, but I do love the earth, and I do love putting my feet in the earth. So that's like the most important thing to me.
Yeah, that's one of my pretty much everyday 20 minutes minimum. Obviously there's days I do miss that because particularly right now, because it's super duper extra really hot here.
Yeah, it's so hot. Yeah.
And so that I do really try. That is one thing though that I do really try to commit to, is like bare minimum like 20 minutes every day. And I was going to say the other thing I do every day that's really truly a non-negotiable for me, like it's every day without fail. It's just the way it is I've been experimenting for the past several months with light therapy. Yeah. And so sunshine before screen time is crucial. I do it every day. I've gotten to the place where even if I wake up with like a migraine, I still drag myself outside. Even if I wear a hat without covering my eyes, and I get natural light every day, first thing in the morning when I wake up, before I even turn my phone on, before I'm allowed to look at my screen. I've
heard about that.
I've
heard about waking up before the sun and watching the sunrise is also really powerful. I heard that changed this guy's life. He did it for 6 months straight and now does it every day. But he was like, I'm going to give myself 6 months. I'm going to wake up before the sun. I'm going to watch the sunrise every morning. And he said it literally changed his life. Because it changes your circadian rhythms and everything. But I've also heard about the sun, right? So do you wake up before the sun rises, or you just, when you get up, you let the sun hit your face? Do you look at the sun, or what's your practice?
Well, I have a dog, so I walk her in the mornings, and I don't have a rigid wake up time. I love watching sunrises, but they're rare. Yeah. And from my understanding is like, yes, that could be like the most powerful experience, but no matter what, to just wake up and go outside in natural light to start your day is super powerful. And honestly, what's really crazy is ever since the few months ago, because I was learning and reading all about how light in our relationship with light, and that means all light, blue light, red light, yellow light, natural light, artificial light, is so impactful on our hormones. And I was having like a lot of these hormonal symptoms. So I said, well, what do I have to lose? So I started experimenting with it, and I am not kidding, 3 months of doing it. And I literally was just telling a friend that I had the best woman's cycle this last week. that I've had in over 15 years.
Wow.
And it was the first month in like 2 years that I didn't have menstrual migraines.
Wow.
And yeah, and I can't be strict or rigid with it, like I work evenings, so I don't catch every sunset.
Yeah.
But also I do try to make a habit, even if I'm really tired and I can't go spend 20 minutes outside, even if I can't go and watch the sun go down, I still make sure I go outside around sunset time to take in that, like, information into my brain through my eyes.
Yeah.
And then the other little things I do is I use blue blockers.
Yeah.
So once the sun's down, I put yellow glasses on, and I have like a shield on my phone and computer that reduces the blue light.
Oh my God. I have like, my whole house is painted with shielding paint from like 5G and all that crap. So yeah,
so
I'm like psycho about that stuff.
Yeah, I'm not, like I said, I'm not rigid or weird about it. Every day I've just been experimenting with light and what would my relationship with light create for me. And I'm pretty excited about the results.
That's amazing. Yeah. Okay. So I'm motivated because I have started going to bed earlier, which is good because I'm now waking up earlier, which is so much better. Oh my gosh. It's so much better because then I meditate and I get so much done before 9 o'clock. It's crazy. And so then I can like enjoy my afternoon and not feel stressed and then have, go to bed early again. It's like really good. So I'm staying with that, but also, and I earth every day. We live 3 blocks from the beach. So I go to the beach, but we usually go at like 6 o'clock at night when we can take our dog to the beach, which is not quite sunset, but it's before, it's like a little before sunset. But now I'm liking the idea of getting up, not looking at my phone and going straight outside before I do anything. Yeah. I love that. I mean,
even for 5 minutes, right? Like even for 2 minutes, I think it's about doing whatever you can,
Yeah. And I have no excuse not to. Like I'm literally, my bedroom I have a porch that I could walk out there and like look at the sun. It's
perfect.
Nothing. Yeah. I mean, I have no excuse. So that's incredible. But what's incredible to me is that the earth is like, nature is amazing, right? Like Mother Earth is truly our medicine. Like it can be our absolute medicine and healing. It's incredible. It's like, what did our ancestors do, right? They didn't have all this other crap that we have now. Hi, Wander While We Can. Yes, we should. Yes. So that's amazing. That's amazing. I love that. And I also recently heard about, so I'm starting to get into, have you done Joe Dispenza's work at all?
I mean, I've read all his books and I've done a lot of his meditations.
Yeah. So I haven't done, there's my friend was just telling me about a walking meditation where literally like you can walk better as you do it, which is pretty amazing. So I was just, this woman, Wander While We Can, just messaged me because she lives nearby, and I was like, yeah, I should do this walking meditation and walk the beach and see if I walk better while I do it. It's incredible.
There's another really great guy. He's a musical composition artist, and I interviewed him 2 years ago, but he has walking meditations, and they're really beautiful because they're like, he plays piano in certain like frequencies and stuff, and then he has something. Like, it's not quite like Joe's. It's more like he has some kind of, I don't know, he'll read a poetry or talk about some kind of something, and then he guides you through walking and kind of reminds you like to speed up or slow down to really slow and to like be conscious of certain things. And they're really beautiful. That's awesome. His name is Murray Hittery. I could give you his information to put like in the show notes or in the comments. Yeah,
the show notes. Yeah, you can DM me right after this because I already copied what I'm gonna write, but I can put it in the comments afterwards. How about that? We'll put it in the comments. His name. That sounds awesome. Yeah, I'm a big believer in frequency music too, and I am launching a meditation album soon as well, with my visualizations, which I lead during my class, which will be cool. I'm excited about that. Yeah. So what else do we need to know, Chazmith, about you, or where to find you, or what else, like how can people connect with you? Tell us.
I am at Our Power Is Within on Instagram, and I'm available on all major podcast platforms. Our Power Is Within. So yeah, like Spotify, Apple, Google, all of that stuff. And I think that's the two primary places is you can find my podcast.
Yeah.
Or you can follow on Instagram. One of the things I did for the first like 2 years, it was really fun to me, was little weekly challenges that people could participate in that I did on my podcast.
Cool.
I have cut that section out of the podcast, but I'm bringing them back to Instagram starting this coming week. So every Sunday we'll release like a little, fun, simple challenge that people can partake in. And a fun fact, this coming Sunday, the first one we're going to do is Sunshine Before Screen Time.
So there we go. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
I do like a theme every month, you know, so it might be like a really little neuroplasticity like challenge or something. Sometimes it's literally like a minute a day. I try to make it really easy and accessible for everyone. So that would be a fun thing to join in on. And yeah, that's where I am. Instagram and all podcast platforms. There's lots of healing stories. There's lots of expert interviews, different tools and modalities so that people can start to see what feels resonant for them.
Yeah. And implement what feels good to them. Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. And I loved our conversation that I got to be on your podcast, which was such a pleasure. So thank you. And thank you for coming on here. I appreciate it. I will post this as soon as we end, and I will make you a collaborator if you want to post it on your feed as well. And yeah, DM me that man's name. Where is
Somebody wants to say hi.
Oh my God. She is so coconut. How old is she?
She's 6.
Oh my gosh. I mean, what's so cool is our neighbors foster bulldogs. It's really cool. It's like their organization's called, I can't remember. It's something about bullies. Obviously meaning bulldogs. And yeah, they foster a lot of like older bulldogs who need homes. And so I'm like, one of these days, because we have a dog, but I'm like, one of these days I'm going to take one of those home with me and keep them. They're so sweet. So every once in a while, like every few weeks, I feel like I need a new bulldog for like a couple minutes.
Foster one.
Yeah, we need to. Well, thank you so much for being on. This was so inspirational. I love hearing about what you like to do and your practices and your story and your podcast and everything. So thank you, Chazmith. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.